Some of the greatest animes out there follow the journey of a weak MC working hard and increasing his power level. That struggle, overcoming hardships and challenges, that's what makes for a truly great watch. But the real cherry on top? When everyone around him realises just how insanely strong our main character has become. Greetings everyone and welcome to Animeology. We have some fantastic recommendations for you today, really well made animes where the main character works really hard and surpasses absolutely everyone. Number 10. Madan no Tsukama. You don't get much more epic than this brilliant adventure fantasy series, set in this really interesting version of medieval Europe. We follow the intense drama and dealings of power and influential political figures. Dukes, duchesses, kings and queens, but don't worry, it's not too heavy on politics but definitely gives you a good reason for fighting and in painting the world stage. We actually refer to this series as the anime Game of Thrones. A huge cast of really interesting and intertwining characters, it can be a bit much but don't worry, dedicated viewers are seriously rewarded as we follow the epic journey from nobody to absolute beast. Definitely a lot to take in and you really do want more. There is a lot fleshed out in the manga and the light novel series. Number 9. Unbreakable Machine Doll. An MC surprising everyone around him is definitely a sweet reveal, but it definitely gets a lot better when he surprises his very own harem. Unbreakable Machine Doll is a nice blend of action fantasy with some very tasty ekechi additions. A very interesting alteration history of the UK, we learn that scientists have integrated both magic and technology in order to create borderline artificial intelligence type magic robots, spread across the world as military weapons and controlled by humans. Unbreakable Machine Doll follows the tale of a young robot-controlling human that is secretly on a quest to hunt the killer behind the murder of his family. Not too heavy on the fantasy, but very interesting core storylines that is complemented well by its arcs. A really fun and twisted watch, we highly recommend this one for sure. Number 8. Air Gear. Now, we don't like recommending sports animes, so when we do, you know it's going to be great. The sport in Air Gear is actually more action-orientated than anything, so you would hardly even notice. The story follows a new trend called air treks. This is like a weird futuristic skating fighting thing. Across the country, everyone is doing it. On the streets, people are even forming air trek gangs. Air Gear focuses on the middle schooler that's in one of the toughest street fighting gangs around. Our MC learns that his adopted sister is actually heavily involved with the world of gang-related air treks and slowly gets sucked into the world of this seriously dangerous and scary sport. As an anime, Air Gears is not afraid to explore every facet of its story, from the really interesting characters as well as the brilliant world. The most complex aspects of the season is by far the villains of each arc. So unique and well thought out, you're really rooting for the win. Number 7. Classroom Crisis. A bit more on the light-hearted end, Classroom Crisis is a romantic comedy with a very fun science fiction element. This series is actually pretty imaginative and the opportunity to follow any story in that setting is really enough to keep coming back for. Classroom Crisis is set in a future with interplanetary space travel. We focus on a Martian school that specialises in extremely gifted students for rocket engine training. Although the series does get a bit sciencey and technical, it's still very fun. We follow a third-year student, Nagasiya, as he works along with his class in order to develop a brand new rocket engine, the X-2. Classroom Crisis uses the cover of a romantic comedy to address some very interesting issues you face growing up that many animes just seem to forget. Definitely more of an emotional rollercoaster than anything, but certainly worth a watch. Number 6. Tales of Symphonia the Animation. Now, the Tales of Symphonia brand is very well known, but not actually for anime. This started off as a brilliant RPG game that has since spawned an epic, sprawling multimedia empire. This covers everything from manga, anime, movies, and even books. The anime series, however, was a great hit and has spawned many sequels. We do love the first series. Our introduction to the fantasy world of Slavarant and the MC, Lloyd Irving, and his childhood friends are really captivating. Follow our MC as he builds his group of warriors on their destiny to save the world, but slowly start to learn well-kept truths about parallel dimensions, other worlds, and evil plans. There is a reason that the Tales of Symphonia series are so famous around the world. Do yourself a favour and get involved. Number 5. Tarumitsu, No Index. Although Tarumitsu likes to get a bit on the science side, it's still very heavily a fantasy action series, but a brilliant one at that, set in an interesting world of supernatural powers and abilities. We follow a young high schooler, Toma, and his unnatural powers. Now, these powerful abilities are acquired through some very loose science and are basically ESP users, but some people can actually be born with these powers, and some can even learn them. Tarumitsu introduces this insanely powerful magic as a tool but allows so many different people to use the ability. It makes for characters and situations to be so much more interesting. The main story is focused on this technologically advanced city in Japan, and we follow Toma with his insane ability to negate any other supernatural power. How insanely powerful is that? The story really kicks off when he meets this beautiful and secretive English girl by the name of Index, and our young MC is dragged into the secretive magical underworld. Number 4. Yugari Su no Yuna-san. You don't get much more fun than this one right here. We absolutely love the MC, an absolutely down on his luck and borderline homeless high schooler that kicks off the story just trying to find a new place to live. This anime does have a supernatural element to it, but it takes a backseat to the top-notch comedy and pretty memorable harem. Seriously, ignoring all the akechi and quality waifus, you will still be having a great laugh and a brilliant time with this one. The MC eventually finds a cheap bordering house to stay, but why is the rent so cheap? Well, that's because it's haunted by the ghost spirit of an insanely beautiful girl who died there. The story starts to slowly unravel as our hero helps our ghost spirit and start learning some more strange supernatural truths about the rest of the women staying there. Number 3. Eyeshield 21. A sports drama that doesn't really focus on sports as much as it shows some very relatable and likeable characters and places them in both comedic but mainly very interesting and captivating dramatic situations. Don't worry, it's not too cheesy and not too lame. A really mature and twisting tale of a young boy just trying his best with all odds stacked against him. We follow Senna, a high schooler from Tokyo that is a serious push-around, relatively quiet and unknown, just trying to get through his day. But Senna is actually a seriously gifted runner and extremely agile. He doesn't think much of it, but is noticed by the school's football captain. Forced to hide his identity and remain anonymous, and about to secure his team a much-needed win, except they lose. Yep, all that hype for an epic loss. But don't worry, this is one of the greatest uphill climbs you will ever see in an anime. A complete transformation from a weak and unassertive MC that helps guide his team to victory, or another loss. Don't worry, we won't spoil it for you, but you really do need to go out and watch this one right now. Number 2. Zero no Tsukama. A very interesting social commentary more than anything, Zero no Tsukama brings a pretty mature commentary about wealth and the class system that is pretty similar to the time of nobles, kings and queens. But don't worry, it doesn't linger too long on that. At its heart, Zero no Tsukama is a comedy fantasy with some quality harem waifus. The story itself follows a bunch of students from a magic academy, with the MC being Louise and Satayo, a really weak magical user and her assistant from Earth. This class system has magical users as a kind of noblemen. This is a really core part of the comedy behind the series. What makes this anime such a great watch is the beautiful chemistry between Satayo and Louise. You already get a sense of tenderness from the very first episode, with the underdog magic and her trusty familiar. Slowly seeing that grow and blossom really makes this a great, intimate and engaging series that you do need to check out. And number 1, Roka no Yusha. A really awesome watch that will have you on the edge of your seat from the very first episode. A brilliant blend of action, fantasy and mystery, Roka is one of the best series out there. A bit outdated, but it has definitely aged well. The story follows these 6 people selected by a goddess in order to defeat the Demon Lord. But when these heroes assemble, there are actually 7 of them. One of the 7 is clearly an imposter sent by the demon god himself. That alone should have you hooked. A really interesting and mysterious tale with good and bad, evil and all the grey stuff in between. The world design is also unique, with a fresh look at an ancient story of civilization. Similar to those old Mayan or Aztec temples, we guarantee you've seen nothing like it. We follow Adlet, someone claiming to be the strongest man in the world, using his cunning, wits and a whole bunch of tools in order to best his opponents. Throughout the series we learn about his motivations and the interesting tale of bloodshed, war and violence that plagued the world of Roka. A slow burn and a big reveal that you definitely don't want to miss out on.